Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another day of movement meditations. For some reason, my camera orientation looks weird. Don't know if I can do anything about it now. Okay, so hi everyone. I hope you have had a lovely day. It's very hot here in the UK, so I've been enjoying a little bit of working in the garden this afternoon, which has been nice. Yeah, so I want to teach a lesson today that kind of ties in with the stuff that we've been doing this week, but maybe also has some wider relevance or wider significance. And this is a subject that I think that is maybe underrepresented in our society, and is something that's really worth us thinking about. And that's our relationship with our pelvises, and more specifically, the pelvic floor. Often because we don't really spend much time thinking about this area, it's only brought into our awareness very strongly when we are experiencing some degree of pain. So this can be some form of pelvic discomfort, and it affects both men and women. And I think that we miss out on something about the full scope of being human by ignoring this part of ourselves. So I want to kind of have a look at it today. It's going to be a very gentle exploration, kind of looking at the movement of the jaw as well, hopefully tying things in from the week. So when you're ready, what I'd like you to do is find a comfortable position to sit in. And just take a moment, close your eyes, and just feel how you're sitting on your chair. What do you notice about yourself in this moment as you bring your attention to yourself? Are there any kind of initial signals that your body, maybe you've been sitting doing work all day, or you've been out and you've hurt yourself? Like, is there any kind of information that your body is kind of already transmitting that's very loud? Good. And then very slowly, very gently, bring your attention to your breathing. And just notice where in your body the movement of the breath is occurring. And just take a moment with that. One of the things I really enjoy when it's warm is that the quality of the air is really kind of warm and comfortable, and you can just kind of enjoy taking in that warmer air. It means the body is doing less work in order to warm the air, to really process it in the lungs. So notice maybe as you breathe in, breathe out, the movement in your chest, where you feel that movement. Is that movement more in the upper chest? Is it more of a forwards and backwards movement? Is it more of a sideways, kind of outwards and inwards movement? And then as you move your attention down through your chest, maybe into the area kind of where the chest joins the abdomen. And this is the place that the diaphragm, or the, not an access point, but I mean, this is basically the level of the diaphragm. So just notice again as you breathe in and breathe it out now. Do you notice any movement in this area? And the diaphragm is kind of the big muscle responsible for breathing. The ribs do contribute, but the diaphragm is really what's drawing in air into the lungs and expelling out air as it relaxes. Good. And as you move your attention down, maybe you feel your abdomen. Any movement of the breathing in the abdomen. It may be the upper abdomen, the middle abdomen, or lower abdomen. Just take a few kind of in and out breaths. You may even feel that there's a difference between the left and the right side of the abdomen. Excuse me, I've got my window open, so I don't know if you guys can hear that. So as you breathe in and breathe out, does one side of your abdomen tend to do more of the work? Is it kind of opening or expanding more than the other side of the abdomen? Is that something that you can actually feel? Good. And then if you take your attention down to the area of the pelvic floor, and the pelvic floor is this area that kind of joins from all the way from the pubic bone all the way back to the tailbone. And we kind of talk about that in a very general sense, but just kind of feel this like underside of the pelvis. And as you breathe in and as you breathe out, do you notice any movement in this area? And maybe as you bring your attention there, that's something that's uncomfortable or difficult or an area you're not used to paying attention to. So kind of give yourself time. Take it easy. Give yourself permission to kind of not understand it or not know it or not feel it very well. Like kind of let the awareness of that area very gently, gradually grow. And if you want to kind of move your attention between places, if you just initially start with feeling the area just at the pubic bone, just kind of have your attention there. That's kind of the front edge of the pelvis. And then you can move your attention downwards towards the sitting bones. And these are the two bony structures that we sit on. You can see them in my little diagram here. This part of the pelvis here. And this is, really where we get our support in sitting. So just feel how you are currently sitting on this part of you. Are you maybe on the back edge of the sitting bone or the front edge of the sitting bone? And maybe you feel that you're on one side more than the other. You can feel a tendency to kind of have more weight down into the left sitting bone or more weight down into the right sitting bone. Just feel what it's like for you. Good. And then if you move your attention back to the pubic bone and just see if you can keep both of those two areas in your attention at the same time. So what the relationship, the kind of spatial relationship between the front of the pelvis, the front edge of the pelvis, pubic bone, this underside of the pelvis being the sitting bone, what's the relationship between those two spaces or places? How much space is there in between them? If you keep your breathing comfortable, keep feeling if you sense any movement of your breathing in those areas. The pelvic floor does respond to our breathing. It also responds to obviously different bodily functions like coughing and sneezing. But you can feel sometimes maybe if your attention is very subtle, you can feel this a slight movement of the pelvic floor as you breathe in and breathe out. And it's probably more apparent on a baby, for example, where their breathing is just such a whole body experience. And as we kind of grow into adulthood and maybe our kind of habitual positions have an effect on us, our breathing becomes more and more limited to just being a a movement of the chest or a movement of the abdomen. But really, there is a sense of like our whole body being involved in breathing. So as you breathe in and breathe out, now gently move your attention back to your tailbone. Can you feel where your tailbone is pointing? Does it feel like it's tucked under or sticking out? And if you think that the tailbone is obviously the kind of ancestral inheritance of our earlier iterations that had tails, then how would your tail be sitting right now? How would your tail be resting? Good. And then see if you can feel this relationship between the area or the place where the tailbone is, the direction of the tailbone, the place where the sitting bones are, whether there's more weight on one or the other, or you're rolled backwards or forwards, and the position of the pubic bone as well at the front of the body. So you've kind of got this, maybe it forms a little bit like a triangle. And that's really the shape of the pelvic floor. Good. So just keep that area very gently in your attention, and begin to, as you breathe in and out, just begin to very gently lower your jaw, open your jaw, let your jaw relax, and close your jaw again. And take some time to do that. Don't rush it. Let the kind of the benefit or the learning of the experience or the movement kind of come to you rather than going out and getting it. So as you open your jaw, just continue to feel your breathing and continue to feel these four places in your pelvis, in your pelvic, sort of the area or the shape of the pelvic floor. And maybe you can notice as you continue to kind of bring your attention to that area at the same time as relaxing your jaw, you can feel the muscles in those areas starting to soften and to relax and to become more comfortable. Hey, Ryan. That's really nice to see you popping in to this. Great. And so as you relax your jaw and you open your jaw, just feel this relationship with your pelvis. And maybe you can start to begin to just tilt your pelvis very gently forwards so that the pubic bone is dropping down slightly closer to the floor. And do that at the same time. Can you tie that in with this sense that the jaw can really open and relax and you can let go of it? Good. So the pelvis is rolling forwards. As the jaw opens, the pubic bone, the edge, the front edge of the pelvis is dropping downwards towards the front of the chair. And then as you're bringing your jaw to closed again, your pubic bone is coming back up and your pelvis is coming to a more neutral position with your two sitting bones sitting on the chair. Good. And then see, can you go the other way? can you tilt the pelvis in such a way that the pubic bone lifts away from the floor and the back of the pelvis, the tailbone, goes downwards towards the floor? And just do that movement a few times. Again, continuing to feeling your breathing, feeling into your breathing, and feeling these four places of the pelvis. The front of the pelvis, the pubic bone, the two sitting bones, and the tailbone. Tracking all of those four places as you very gently take your tailbone towards the floor, kind of tucking it under slightly, and then bringing your pelvis back to neutral. And this will obviously have an effect on your spine as you do this, and maybe even on the position of your head. So perhaps you notice that. Good. Take a little rest. And again, just open and close your jaw a few times. Just notice how your jaw's coming along. Does it feel more relaxed in the upper part of ourself as we relax more or investigate or become more aware of the lower part of ourself? Because I've been in the garden, I have a little spider crawling on me, which is kind of funny because my surname's Webster. So as you sit there now, just go back to the movement that we were doing yesterday. Tilt your head slightly backwards and open your jaw at the same time. So now the head is tilting backwards, feeling the cervical spine at the back of the neck kind of shortening, coming together, and at the same time allowing your jaw to open. And notice as you do that movement, do you breathe in or do you breathe out? And you can try both. And as you do that movement with your head, taking your head slightly backwards, allowing your jaw to open, can you just pay attention again, a slight amount to the area of your diaphragm? This place in between the kind of area of the ribs and the area of the abdomen. And as you open your jaw and tilt your head backwards in this way, can you feel that this area of the diaphragm is given an opportunity to relax as well? In the yogic traditions, they talk about the different. So in terms of the meditative practices, they talk about locks or creating diaphragmatic locks in certain parts of the body. One of those locks is created down in the pelvic floor, which is called Mula Bandha, I believe. And there's another one in the throat, and I can't remember if there's one in the diaphragm as well. But there's this sense that these areas of our body, the diaphragm, the jaw, the pelvic floor, are very closely related to our sense of ourself in terms of emotions and peacefulness and relaxation. So as you sit there now and you allow your jaw to open, just notice if there's some kind of change in your breathing. And can you go back to tilting the pelvis very slightly forwards so that the pubic bone just draws a little closer to the chair and there's a slight tilting. And maybe you feel that as you're doing that slight tilting movement, there's also a change in relationship between the pelvis and the head of the femur or the bones of the thighs. So obviously there's a change in the angle, but can you feel that as you tilt the pelvis forward in that way, that there's some kind of change in that relationship? Some effect of this kind of slow, conscious movement on the areas that maybe we hold tension habitually to protect ourselves. But we don't. They aren't necessary in all situations. And this is maybe one of those situations where it's okay to give yourself permission to let go of some of those kind of holding patterns or safety mechanisms. You're in your own space, there's no one around, there's no one watching, and you can kind of take time and just feel into these places. Again, I think it's one of I was talking about the kind of the slightly kind of controversial or taboo aspect of talking about the pelvic floor in public, or that we've got pelvises. And I think that the more that we do get comfortable with that and include all of ourself in our life, in our work, in our relationships, that's a really positive thing. Good. Okay, so just let go of that movement. Let go of that movement. Just bring your attention to your breathing. And feel where your breathing is happening now. I'm much more aware, even though I haven't fully been doing the lesson, I've been thinking about it and talking it through to you. I'm much more aware of the abdominal part of my breathing right now. And I wonder if there's some similar or different change for you. And see if you can notice as you breathe in and you breathe out, is there some sense of movement in your pelvic floor? As you breathe in, can you feel one direction of movement? And as you breathe out, can you feel a different direction of movement? So I don't want to tell you what those directions could be, but it's either going to be up or down. So just notice as you breathe in, is there some sense of upwards or downwards movement in your pelvic floor? And as you breathe out, is there some sense of upwards or downwards movement? And there isn't really a right and a wrong. We're not looking for a kind of judgmental attention. It's more just to notice and to feel, to grow our awareness of ourself. Good. And one last thing, if you just have your eyes closed and very gently with your eyes closed, just take your tongue and explore a little bit along the upper palate and just feel the sort of internal sensation of moving the tongue along backwards and forwards or around the upper palate, just to really kind of bring you into that internal experience. That's something that we can only feel. We can't see it. Great. And as you do that, and you're using your tongue as a sensing tool, can you just bring your attention back to your pelvic floor? And maybe you can imagine in some way that those two places are the same thing. that you could use your tongue to explore the area of your pelvic floor. And that may be a strange proposition, but hopefully by the 25th minute of this video, I've really got people that are interested in this subject. So I think I'm okay to talk about it. And maybe you can feel again this sort of place, or these 4 points in the pelvis, the lower pelvis, that kind of form the area of the pelvic floor. The pubic bone at the front, the 2 sitting bones to either side, and the tailbone at the back. Good. Feeling your jaw can be relaxed as you do that. Maybe even feeling the muscles around your eyes could be relaxed. Notice if you have any changes in your breathing. Maybe also you notice that there's some change in of yourself. Whereas when you came into the lesson, you were operating at one speed, and now that there's a slightly different sense of your operating speed. So great. That's the end of the lesson today. I hope you enjoyed it. I'd love to hear your feedback in the comments. I think it's a really interesting and important subject, so I'm happy to be able to teach it. The information I need to give you guys is the Saturday class is not on this week, my normal Saturday 1 p.m. class. I will be releasing a recording of one of my previous lessons. If people want to try that, give it a go. If anyone has any particular requests of something they're interested in, I can have a look through the lessons that I've got and see what I can come up with. The other thing is that I think what I'm going to do next week is I'm going to take a bit of a break, a week-long break from teaching these morning sessions, just to kind of catch up with a bit of rest for myself. I've been doing this pretty much on a weekly basis since the beginning of lockdown, so I think I'm kind of ready for a bit of decompression time. I won't be teaching in the mornings next week, but I will be teaching my regular Monday night class, and next week I will be again teaching my regular Saturday and Sunday classes. So if anyone is interested in those, I will be posting the information in my Thoughtful Movements group. If you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to give me a shout. There's a link to all my old lessons in the Facebook group, and I will be kind of going through and working those all into units while I'm off. And then lastly, there's also a link to my PayPal account. If anyone would like to make a contribution for these lessons, I really appreciate it. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'd love to hear from you. Okay, take care. Bye.